The asking price for Tyler Toffoli has been revealed. The Canucks are in on another winger. And is Phil Kessel going to be signed? I'll get into all this later on in this episode. But before I start, I'm proud to say this is once again sponsored by Rentals.ca. Moves are coming. With all the rumors and reports that have been coming out around the league, fans have been expecting for a lot of major shakeups around the league and the Canucks, which should definitely be exciting for hockey fans. And if you feel like you're someone that needs extra excitement in your life, then it's time to move, and Rentals.ca has you covered. Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network. You can rent houses, apartments, condos, whatever it is, Rentals.ca has you covered. From coast to coast, you can go straight to Rentals.ca. It's a super clean and easy to use website. My favorite feature is the map. You can use the map to find exactly where you want to move, where you want to start your new life, continue on your current life. Check out Rentals.ca for all your listings. It will be in the description and in the pinned comment. They're a huge supporter of the NHL and this channel, and they love hockey as much as we do. So check out Rentals.ca for any of your rental needs. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Canucks in on Jason Zucker. Now, reports did come out from the Donnie and Dolly show, and he said to talk to Zucker's agent last week, a lot of teams in on him, including Vancouver, and Chris Johnson just told us the Canucks are poking around on him again this morning. 3 weeks ago, the Canucks didn't have interest in Zucker. This is a classic case of what happens. Prices are high. Then you go down lower on your list. This guy is too high. The price is too high. And then all of a sudden, hey, we're interested in Zucker again. So keep an eye on Zucker in Vancouver. So obviously Jason Zucker is currently playing for the Arizona Coyotes. And the Coyotes did come out and say the team's asking price could be a high draft pick, as high as a second round pick, in exchange for Jason Zucker with 50% retained. Now, when you do look at Jason Zucker himself, in 51 games this year, he has 9 goals, 16 assists for 25 points. He's a -5. He does have 74 hits in 51 games. But the big thing to look at this, just last season with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Zucker had 27 goals and 21 assists for 48 points. And when you do look back, and yes, I know it's a long time ago, but 2017, 2018, he had 33 goals, 31 assists. The next year, 21 and 21. The year after, 20 and 21. This guy would be a budget pickup for the Canucks. Obviously, the Canucks are looking at everything they can to add more scoring to the top 6. I mean, we've seen the Jake Guentzel rumors floating around with a possible 3-team trade with them, the Bruins, and the Penguins. This does continue to gain traction, but if they do miss out with so many teams leaning into them, I've seen some reports that Vegas wants them, even though they've got no Hanifin, but apparently they have unlimited cap space. Then you've seen guys like Tyler Toffoli, who is a possibility for the Canucks to look at. And I think if they miss out on a lot of their guys that they can't get, then I think Zucker will be the third option. And the biggest thing with this is if you do bring Zucker in, as I said, this was a guy just last season that scored 27 goals with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He is 2 years old. You bring him in, and it's kind of a low-risk, high-reward type guy. Right now, Zucker is making $5.3 million. You do the half retain on this, plus you take away whatever salaries left of the season. Whatever the whole nonsense with the NHL stuff where you take that and then you take as many games that are left and such on. The Canucks can fit this at 50% retained. And a second round pick, I don't think this is too bad of a deal at all. Maybe you can add in maybe a guy like Jet Wu and then a third or fourth, whatever it might be. I think the Canucks might look at this as a second option. But talking about Tyler Toffoli, Darren Dreger also came out and said, amid of all the action today, to be clear, Toffoli is in play. The Devils are open to return in the way of multiple picks or a pick and a prospect. So I think this really leads into if you can bring Toffoli in for a second round pick and a B-level prospect, yes, go out and do it. Tyler Toffoli is a guy that's 26 goals, and this is a guy that can produce in your top 6. We've seen him on this team before. We've seen him produce on multiple teams in the past couple seasons. It's just not working right now with the Devils, and they are looking to sell some of their UFAs. As I said, right now they're asking for multiple picks or a pick and a player. He does have 26 goals, 18 assists for 44 points. So you can bring him in at a decent price. I definitely would do this. But if they're asking for too much, if this is coming out to be a first round pick and a prospect, maybe you lean towards a guy like Zucker just to bring in a cheaper option, a guy that has experience, knows what it takes to win in this league, and just to get some extra scoring in this top 6 for the Canucks playoff run. So what's your guys' thoughts on this? Do you think Zucker, they should just go out and get this guy, give up the second round pick to get him half retained, maybe even wait till trade deadline right at the timer? They might do this for a third, whatever it might be. Or do you think it's worth to give up the price to get a guy like Toffoli, especially if it's not going to cost a whole lot more? But with that, let's hop straight into the second topic today, which is, will Kessel be signed? So reports did come out, and Rick Daly said, as of now, there is no Kessel signing to report. And Cap Friendly does retweet this and follows up. Worth noting that Kessel would need to be signed to a contract prior to the 3 p.m. Eastern deadline on Friday in order to be playoff eligible. And right now, Donnie and Dolly were kind of talking about it on the Donnie and Dolly show, and they were kind of just talking about Phil Kessel and how he went to Abbotsford. He's technically a free agent, but he is practicing with them. And Dolly says, the decision is coming soon. I can tell you there's a holding pattern. Is it cap related? Is it trade related? His fitness, I've been told, is not a issue. So obviously we've seen Phil come in. There's a lot of reports come out that he looked a little gassed during his first few practices. But Phil was known as a gamer that could always get into shape, especially in a short period of time. I think Kessel will be signed. I think they're waiting closer to trade deadline, maybe right at the timer once again, just so they can just acquire as much cap as they can without kind of hindering themselves. They can use their trade deadline cap. They can sign Phil Kessel to a league minimum and maybe use him as a depth piece, or maybe if they don't go out and get the scoring winger they need, they could use Phil as a replacement piece or just a piece to kind of see how he works, and maybe he comes out to be better than a guy like Jason Zucker or Toffoli. And it kind of makes you think with the Canucks lines, obviously Höglander, Pettersson, I think they're a staple on the top line. And this is where I could see a guy like Zucker come in. Maybe you have a guy like Tyler Toffoli that come in. I don't think Phil touches this top line. Then you see Mikheyev, which is a totally different story that I'm not going to touch on right now. JT Miller and Boeser. Once again, Toffoli could slide in onto the second line. Maybe you bring in a guy like Guentzel once again. Or maybe Phil Kessel could play on the second line. Then you have Podkolzin, Lindholm, Garland. I know Podkolzin was sent down, but this was just because Abbotsford had so many games in a short span. They needed more bodies. Once Dakota Joshua comes back, I do think this will be, once again, Joshua. Then you have a guy like Teddy Bluger and Garland on this line. The big thing to leave with this right now is you have 3 guys the Canucks are really looking at. And a guy like Jake Guentzel, Tyler Toffoli, and once again, Jason Zucker. So if they do go out and get a guy like this, I think either of these 3 would fit perfectly on this team. Guentzel obviously being the highest asking price. If his price is too high, look at a guy like Toffoli. And kind of like Dolly said, you work your way down to what you find comfortable to give up. Yes, it would be nice to bring in a guy like Tyler Toffoli, but like I said earlier on, if you have to give up first, and if they're asking for a guy like Jonathan Lycurmack, you hang up that phone, you call, you give up this second round pick to the Coyotes or a third at deadline. Like I said with this Canucks lines, you can fill this top 6 out. They've said before that they weren't comfortable with running Lindholm on wing. So maybe we truly do see Lindholm flipped. Maybe he goes to Boston. I know Kevin Weeks was throwing out a few speculations with this as well. Whatever it might be, let me know who you want the most on the Canucks. Let me know what you're willing to give up. And are you excited for the trade deadline to finally be here and see what the Canucks do? But that'd be it for this episode of Canucks Digest. As I said, make sure to go down, leave a comment, subscribe, share this with your friends. And the biggest thing is, if you guys do need to move, if your wives, your girlfriends, if they're mad that you're watching too much hockey, or if you're paying attention too much trade deadline and you're missing dates with them, make sure to check out rentals.ca in the pinned comment or in the description for any of your rentals needs. They're a huge supporter of the NHL, and they love it just as much as us. But that'd be it for this episode of Canucks Digest, and take care.